Hi guys, it is Olivia and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a long form about things in my book, Exposed, that you may not notice. Now this is my debut, if you haven't seen me before, this is my debut novel called Exposed. It's my first novel that I've ever published, and it is the first book in a 5-book series called the Experiment Series. If you are interested in dystopia or Hunger Games, Maze Runner, any of that type of stuff, I would suggest checking this out. It's written by me. And the link is in the description of my channel, so if you want a little bit more of that cool dystopia stuff and learn a little bit more about what Exposed is about, check my stuff on Amazon. Everything's there. And also consider subscribing because I talk a lot about this book and other upcoming books in the series in that type of stuff. So, yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, so this video, as I said, is going to be about things you may not notice about my book. Now, there are plenty. I put a lot of little references in there, and it's some of my favorite things to do is put little references and little lines. It's very fun. I have my copy in front of me, my very annotated copy, and the only reason it's so annotated is so I can laugh at myself later. So I'm gonna get right into it, and yeah, there's gonna be about 4 or 5 things I'm gonna mention, and it's gonna be fun. So let's go. First of all, the biggest thing I feel I've already mentioned on this channel in a short before, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. So this thing happens in chapter 24, which is going to be a lot of chapter 24 stuff in this thing just because I love that chapter. So in chapter 24, if you all... Oh, and also this video does contain spoilers for Exposed. I literally should have said that, and you guys should have known that by the title. But this video contains very heavy spoilers for Exposed, so if you have not read the book, highly suggest checking it out. As I said, all that stuff is in my description. Anyways, so, Exposed. So, again, in chapter 24, this is a big chapter in the book. It's where Paul proposes to Persephone, if you don't remember, and it is one of my complete favorite chapters just because it has so much emotion in it, and I love Persephone and Paul's very toxic, very abusive relationship a little too much. I mean, writing it, not actually, but you know what I mean. So, let us get into my favorite line of symbolism that wasn't even supposed to be meant in the book. So this line happens at the end, not the end, it's in that scene where Persephone is in the bathroom by herself. I'm pretty sure it's near the 260 range page-wise. I don't know. I really don't care right now. But basically, at the end of that scene, it says, mascara smudged her face. It almost looked like someone had punched her. Or something like that. I'm going to find the actual line in a little bit. But besides the point, the line is like, mascara smudged her face. It almost looked like someone had punched her, right? So originally, I wrote this line in my second draft without thinking anything of it. But my writing teacher read this and she was like, you know, Olivia, I'm pretty sure this was intentional. It's so cool how you like foreshadow Persephone and Paul's abusive relationship because, like, you know, like the punch line and like kind of look like mascara when you rub it looks like a black eye. And I honestly thought it was a cool descriptor thing. I never thought it was something for foreshadowing or a literary device. But then once she said that, like something opened within me and I'm like, okay, it's intentional now. So that's the only reason it's in the book. Thank you, by the way, if you're watching this. Yeah, the only reason it's in the book is because of my writing teacher. But it does really foreshadow this because later in the book we get to see a lot of Persephone's issues as well with Paul. A lot of Persephone's issues with Paul, which get progressively worse as we see in Harold's part. So yeah, so that looking like someone had punched her is a really big part of the book. And it really sets the tone for the rest of Persephone's character and how she talks to Paul, which is really interesting to me. Yeah, but it's one of my favorite parts of the entire book, really, because it wasn't even meant to be there, but it fits so well. Yeah, so that's something that you may not notice as you're reading, but I like it. I like it a lot. It's really cool. Alright, so the next thing I want to focus on is Persephone again. A lot of this has to do with Persephone. I'm sorry. This could be a Persephone video. But you know what? It's fine. We love her. So basically, this next one, I'm gonna go with the Persephone one, because I was originally gonna do one with Trinity next, but I'm gonna wait for that till the end. So, the next one with Persephone is really interesting, because this also was not meant to be in the book. This actually was changed a year before I published, before I knew I was getting published. But this changed very recently in my timeline. So, and that is the name for Pertho. The name of Pertho was not Pertho for a very long time. For my first 2 drafts, I'm pretty sure, it was not Pertho, or it changed to Pertho. It changed to Pertho after I wrote my second draft, which is insane timeline for me. But the original name of Pertho, I just called it the Camps because I didn't think it needed a name. So Pertho was called the Camps. But I realized, it needs a name. I'm just saying. It just needs a name. It feels like it needs a name. Yeah, so Pertho was originally called just the Camps. And how I came up with Pertho as a name, I didn't come up with it, actually. So what I actually did was I looked up dark baby names, because baby name websites are my saving grace. And I think every writer's saving grace. But basically, I looked up stuff on the website, and I was like, okay, let's look for dark names. And I had a list of like at least 10. And I had my friends and people in my writing class vote on them, right? But one really stuck out to me, and that was Pertho. Because Pertho was not a name on that list. What it actually was is a root of the name Persephone. Now, Persephone means death and destruction, and Pertho is the Greek root of that name that means destruction, which I thought was amazing. So I immediately added it down, and I honestly, everybody loved it, because what I marketed it as, I was like, Paul could have named the camps after Persephone, which he technically could have. It's one of my favorite parts of this entire book, because it's so subtle. You have to know your name meanings. But it's so cool, because I never say how Pertho got its name. How it got his name is never mentioned in the book. So this is up to the reader's discretion. But my personal headcanon, and I guess it is canon because I'm the author, but Paul named the camps after Persephone, which is so cool. I'm sorry. And it also just means destruction, which is what Pertho brings. It brings destruction. It brings discord. It doesn't bring any happiness or peace in anyone's lives, as we can see throughout the book. So that's my next thing that you may not notice, which I love it so much. I am so into Paul just naming the camps for Persephone. And I guess, and before you're like, he doesn't really like her anyway, which he doesn't. He's abusive. He's a narcissist. But my personal reason as to why he did this was to keep Persephone around. I don't know what, I feel like Persephone as a teenager is just annoyed all the time, which I guess we could see from, Atlas's point of view. I think when do we see teenage Persephone? I think we see her once in, I think it's chapter 12. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's chapter 12 where that kid dies, Adam. But, we see teenage Persephone once, and she does not take people's crap, which I love. Also, I love teenage Persephone. Sorry, just everything about her. I like imagining teenage Persephone. I want to do more, flashbacks with her, but I just don't know how to do it, so they probably will never happen. And if they do happen, it'll be in a prequel. But, nevertheless, Paul named the camps after, not the camps. Paul named Pertho after Persephone. So, pretty cool. So, yeah, so there we go. That's our next one. So, after that, another thing you may not notice is in Atlas's part, before we know Persephone is Angelica, before we know that Persephone changed her appearance, I mentioned that Persephone has blue eyes. This is also in chapter 12. I'm going to double check that, actually, because I have the book in front of me. So, let's see. I'm sorry. You got it. Okay. Yes, chapter 12. It is in chapter 12, because I'm right. Okay, so I'm gonna find that line, because I'm pretty sure I made a note of it. Let me see. I'm going to find it. Where is it? My gosh. Okay, here we go. So this is said on page 109, and the line is where Persephone's blue eyes are mentioned. It's Atlas could see her warm blue eyes hardening into ice, which is my foreshadowing for Angelica later on, because Persephone at that point still has blue eyes, and then we figure out later in 25 that her eyes turn black because of Paul's experiments. Now, I think this is really cool, because not many people are going to question that line, but it's not going to be like, whatever. And then, not 2 chapters, in 6 chapters, you find out, oh, she's Angelica. So, that's pretty cool, I thought. I thought that was cool. And speaking on it of Angelica, I have another thing for you. Okay. So next, we have the Angelica, Trinity, Franz, and Avalon thing. Now this is cool. Okay, I came up with this while writing draft 3, and I thought this was amazing. So basically, what this is if you notice character appearances, Angelica, Avalon, and Franz all look similar in appearance. They all have blonde hair or blonde brown hair and blue eyes. Trinity, on the other hand, has very dark hair and she has those silver eyes. Now, look, this is my way of showing that Trinity was the black sheep of the family. Which she was. The Darren family, she was the black sheep. She didn't look like her siblings. She doesn't act like any of her siblings, except for maybe Avalon. Her and Avalon have some similarities. Her and Persephone have similarities, but she acts nothing like Franz. But she's different from the rest of the family. And we can also see this about her being physically removed from the house, along with Angelica. But Angelica was more, honestly, this is also my personal headcanon, is that Angelica / Persephone would have never been mistreated if it wasn't for Trinity. Because their mom had something against Trinity. I'm not going to tell you any of why their mom kind of abused them yet, because that kind of has stuff to play into later stuff with Persephone, so I'm not going to say anything. But there's some mental illness involved. I'll say that. There is some severe mental illness involved. And Trinity was kind of like the backboard for that, I guess. I don't know. The dartboard? So I don't know. But it's something like that, where Trinity was the black sheep of the family, basically. And I show that through her appearance. And yeah, you can see it. And even and actually, it's so funny because I cut a chapter from the last draft of Exposed, and she even says this. I might be able to find the chapter somewhere on my computer, but she even says at one point in that cut chapter was like, oh my gosh, like I'm the black sheep of the family. I don't even look like my siblings. Like that's even mentioned in the book, which I think is really good. And I wish I would have kept that, but I couldn't think of a way to do it. So it's out. It's out of the book. But you can notice it. It's not, I don't scream it in your face, but you can notice it just a little. So that's pretty cool. And also, another thing you might not notice, which I guess I didn't really shove this in your face, but I'm going to tell you this anyway because I think it's pretty cool. Another thing about the Darren family that you may not notice is that Persephone and Trinity's father is the whole reason the camps happened, or Pertho happened, which is really funny. So you may not notice this, and I never outright say it, but in chapter 18, when Angelica's in that interview, they talk about her father becoming the new criminal coordinator, which basically he worked alongside Paul's father. Okay, I'm sorry, I love this so much, but he worked alongside Paul's father, and when Paul's father died, he became the sole criminal coordinator. Right? This is never mentioned in the book. This is just some behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, he became the new criminal coordinator. So for Lindsay and Paul to have their idea of Pertho to ever be approved, they would have to go through Timothy, which is Persephone and Trinity's father. And that is why Paul was there in chapter 20 meeting, and that's why Paul was there while Angelica and Trinity were in the shed, and that is the whole reason they got help, was because of Pertho. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense right now. But I just wanted to tell you, like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. That's the tea. Because if Pertho never existed, Paul and Lindsay would have no reason to come to Persephone and Trinity's house. Paul would have never found Persephone. They would have never gone into a relationship. So Pertho is the whole reason she was basically saved, quote unquote. So take that what you will. So Pertho was the cause of all their trauma, but was also their saving grace. I actually just realized that part, but I don't really care. But I do, so the insider stuff is basically without Timothy Darren, Pertho wouldn't have happened. And yeah, so pretty cool. There was another thing I wanted to say. Oh, and then the last thing, which I think is the coolest, honestly, I think it's so cool. But the last thing that people usually don't notice about my books is the names. Now, throughout the book, I feel like I'm giving such a big spoiler right now, but you would need to dig a little deep for this. Everybody at some point, except for a couple characters, like Clover, or I think there's another one. Clover, or a couple of them. But most of the characters embody their name at least once. Like the meaning of their name. If you look up my characters' meanings throughout the series, they embody their names at least once. Which was not intentional in the beginning, but now it's intentional. Like, for example, we have Persephone, death and destruction. She even says this in the book. I'm pretty sure. She said it in earlier drafts. I'm pretty sure she says it in this one. But she's like, oh yeah, my only purpose is to murder and destroy. That is her whole, that's the name meaning. She embodies it. She embodies the death and destruction throughout Exposed, which I think is amazing. Another thing, Atlas's name means to carry. I chose the name because I thought it sounded like nighttime. I thought it was a cool moon type name. But later in the series, I realized he carries everyone on his shoulders. The name was perfect for him. It was chosen by God. But basically, it was like to carry, which he carries everyone. He always feels like he has to be the strong one, especially for Trinity. Like, he thinks about Trinity during his part a lot. Sunny, Harold. We see this all the time in this part where he has a constant need to, like, make sure everybody's okay, which is really interesting. And that shows the embodiment of his name. And he doesn't stop. So, yeah, he carries everyone, which I think is pretty cool. And then also, what's another one? I was thinking of one. Oh, and Joel's. Okay, so I don't really talk about Joel, but this is kind of a spoiler for the next book. But if you look up the name meaning for Joel, that has a big impact on book 2. And he embodies his name in that book. I'm not going to tell you anything else, so that's it. It's a spoiler for book 2, technically, but you'll see what I mean. You'll see when you read it, when book 2 comes out, which I'm currently writing, but yeah. But basically, everybody in the books embodies their name at some point. Whether it's not in, it might not be in this book, it could be a couple books later. Like, for example, Harold's means army ruler. I feel like this is such a big spoiler, but I'm not going to say anything else besides it means army ruler. And he is one of those characters that are very interesting. That is all I'm going to say to that. Thank you. And I'm trying to think if there's like anything else interesting about the other characters that I haven't really mentioned. Oh, there is one thing that I'm thinking. The smells in the backtrack. Now, if you notice, we get 2 POVs of people going into the backtrack. We get Atlas and Harold. And Atlas smells cinnamon, and Harold smells sage. Now, you may be looking at me like, Olivia, what the heck? I still don't understand why they do that. And honestly, I just thought it was really cool to have the backtrack have certain senses be like overwhelmed. So that's why they have like a certain scent. Like, for example, they hear screeches in the backtrack when they first go in. They are locked into an enclosed space. They can't get out. And then they have, like, a smell overwhelm them. So, I honestly thought it would be cool if Atlas's was cinnamon, because he's kind of sweet. You know, he's sweet like cinnamon. I just thought it was a cool flavor, and that's the whole reason this happened. But besides the point. So, Atlas's was cinnamon just because he's a chill dude. And then Harold's was sage. I can't even remember why I made Harold sage, but I feel like it has something to do with his character. I just can't remember what it is. I think it's because I always see Harold as a wise old man. I think that's probably why. So take that what you will. I don't even know what that has to do with sage. Forgive me. You know. So that's something you also may not notice right away, is that the people in the backtrack have different scents pertaining to like kind of who they are, or their personality. Which I think is cool. I'm trying to think of like anything else. Oh, there's another thing with Persephone. There's one more thing with Persephone, and then I'm ending off this video. I'm probably going to do like a separate one for each of the character parts of my book, now that I think about it. Because this one is a lot about Persephone. Nevertheless, notice how Paul gives her a ruby engagement ring. Just notice that. It's a lot more expensive than a diamond engagement ring. I will say that. It's very expensive. And that's kind of also bribing her to keep her around. So that's that. I hope I ruined your day with that. I'm joking. No, I don't. I hope you have a wonderful day. Or night. Or whenever it is. I'm filming this at night. Anyways, I think that is all. I will possibly make a part 2 to this. as I look for more things I could possibly exploit, because there are a couple more things in here I feel like I didn't mention. But the ones I mostly think about are with Persephone, because she's just so interesting. So, yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching me ramble, and I will see you all in another video. And if you haven't checked out Exposed and you stayed till the end of the video, go check it out in my bio. Thanks!